What is your view about life and death? And what would you do if a loved one is suffering from terminal illness? How would you relay that message to him or her? We're going to find out on today's program because we are delighted to have Dr. Hwang Sheau-Feng, who's currently an attending physician in the palliative care unit of Taichung Veterans General Hospital, to talk about his experiences in helping patients with terminal illness and their families. Welcome to our program, Dr. Hwang.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hwang Sheau-Feng. I'm very happy to be here today.
Well, it's a delight to have you on the program.
Thank you.
And Dr. Hwang, to begin off the program today,
yes.
Would you mind telling us a little bit about what is hospice and palliative care?
Hospice and palliative care is a new version in the medical mainstream.
Okay.
It started with the, we call it introspection, meaning that the medical environment we are in now are very high-tech. And for the past centuries or 2 centuries, doctors are trained to save lives. So nowadays, when a patient is approaching his or her end of life, doctors are very heavy equipped. We have many ability to come back. We call it the devil of death.
Okay.
To try to rescue the patient back to his life.
Okay.
And not only by what we do in the hospital. We, for many years, we try to train lay people to practice CPR. And now we have many AED devices in public areas,
okay,
to make sure that if someone fell down in the community, anywhere in the community, there will be someone available to save him.
Okay.
And we even train the ambulance service, the personnel in the ambulance. We train them with, we call it basic life support.
Okay.
And then they become the medical technicians before they even reach the hospital emergency department.
Okay.
And when the patient is in the hospital, everyone in hospitals are trained with advanced cardiovascular life support, which means we are very good at every procedures, make sure that every resuscitation is efficient,
okay,
and will meet their need and save the patient.
Right.
But after all this effort, pioneers start to wonder if this kind of full resuscitation justified for everyone in every situation.
Okay.
What if the patient is in the terminal illness and the disease itself is not reversible and death is inevitable, is about to come? Shall we resuscitate every patient from that situation, because it will be futile, it will be of no help but do many harm.
All right.
So that's how palliative care started. So it started, we call it the modern hospice movement. It started in 1960s in UK, led by Dame Saunders, and then this idea and this branch of medicine spread globally.
All right. But let me ask you this,
Yes.
Dr. Hwang. Even though some patients today may have terminal illness,
Yes.
but because of the advancement in medical technologies,
Yes.
there's always that glimpse of hope
Yeah.
that he or she may be saved if we, for example, pursue some experimental, treatment.
Yeah.
But, there comes to a very difficult decision for the patients, for the doctors, and also for the families to make, is when the prolonging of a life is considered not necessary. How do patients and their families, and also the doctors, reach that decision?
Well, actually, it is not because of prolongation of life unnecessary, but because the prolongation of life impossible or unbearable.
Okay.
The result of medical treatment is not always white and black. There is a very large gray area, which means we can do all this effort, but to hold the slim hope.
Okay.
But what happened most of the case will be we are putting patients hooked on machines,
All right.
which is quite unbearable to most of us.
Exactly. There's no quality of life.
So at first, when we started the resuscitation, we started many painful treatment. We hoped for the best, but the result is already not that good. Patients or their family will be shocked to see what happened in real world.
Okay.
So we try to talk with patient and their family about what happened in real world. We have to consider, even with slim chance of cure, we have to endure many suffering. Is that what we want, or can we go one step further to see if anything could happen, and if not, do we have a chance to step back?
All right. And Dr. Hwang, would you mind giving us a very brief development history of the hospice and palliative care in Taiwan? Because this is, this is something, like you said, fairly new in the medical field, and certainly new in Taiwan for many people. So would you mind giving us a history of the development?
I would like to mention 4 pioneers and 3 organizations for introducing the history.
Okay.
The first one I would like to mention is Professor Chantal Zhao, Zhao Keshi 老师, and the Catholic St. Pax Social, Medical, and Educational Foundation. The name is very long. This is the first lady and the foundation. And the second, I would like to mention Chairman Xie Yinjie, the founding chairman of Taiwan Hospice Organization. I'm sorry, Taiwan Hospice Foundation. And then Dr. Anna Lai, the chief of McKay Memorial Hospice. And then Professor Chen Rongji, the former vice superintendent in National Taiwan University Hospital, and also the founding chairman of Buddhist Lotus Hospice Foundation. And all these figures, they are very important in the development. Professor Zhao once summarized the development in the first 30 years into 4 stages. The first stage is the incubation stage. In the 1980s in Taiwan, professionals in different settings start to wonder that, is it right to do all these? And they reach out to learn, and they know what they have done in England, so they go out and learn. And then in 1990, it is the second stage, the founding stage. We know in 1990, the McKay Memorial Hospital built up the first hospice. And they also established a hospice foundation to do the public education and also the professional training. And by doing that, we have the chance to learn the practical technique in providing care. And in 1994, it is the second milestone. In that year, many important things happened because we have the second hospice in a Catholic hospital, and we have a Buddhist foundation set up for propagation. And then at that year, there is an important trip where 3 organizations will gather together to visit Japan, and then practical experience. And after that trip, these different people with different religious background, they come together and they build very strong partnership and friendship, and they work close hand in hand together till now. And then comes the third stage, because in 1995, Professor Zhao managed to persuade the government leaders, and then the Department of Health step in and take the lead for the development in our country. So they set up the guidelines for good practice, for set up hospice, for accreditation, and also for the healthcare payment. So with all these foundations, it is accomplished in that year. So Professor Zhao called this year the founding stage. Then after the lead by government, we have a good policy lead stage.
Okay.
So in that, I think 5 years more than 15 more hospices are built.
Okay. So Dr. Hwang, we only have about 1 minute left.
Yes.
Give us an assessment of the quality of hospice and palliative care in Taiwan.
Okay. I think the quality is always need to be improved.
Okay.
But I think the quality in many teams in Taiwan are very good.
All right.
And it is in one international survey that we are the 14th in 40 countries in the year 2010.
Okay.
The best in the Asia area.
Good.
And then in last year, we are ranked as the 5th. Also the best in Asia countries. So we have many teams that are very good, and we are trying to help other teams to reach better and better quality.
Well, certainly with your participation, we're bound to learn more and see more improvement in the provision of hospice and palliative care in Taiwan. Dr. Hwang,
yes.
Let me ask you, you've been serving in the palliative care unit for over 2 decades.
Yes.
What is your view about death and suffering?
Yes. I think this is a very important issue for everyone.
Yes.
In a hospice palliative care unit, we witness death all the time.
Yeah, almost every day.
Yes, almost every day. And so it certainly impacts everyone working there. So my view for death, we know rationally that everyone had the day to end.
Yes.
But emotionally, actually, we do not accept that idea that one day I will just vanish.
Okay.
So we have to try to find an answer for this question.
Yes.
So we constantly asking ourselves, what is life and what is death?
Okay.
And I think there's one wise doctor once said, if you are asking what death is, we have to ask first what life is.
Okay.
So we try to find some meaning out of why we have to have death in our life.
Okay.
So someone said death may be one of the best inventions in life. But for suffering, it is very important because patients always ask, why is that? Why is me? Why I'm a good person but end up here?
Yes.
So patients ask all these important question, but there's no quite good answer in the rational world that because of this, because you smoke, you get cancer. Not that simple answers, but to many people, searching for the question, searching for the answer of the question may be the answer of the question, meaning that we are all human beings, we search for meaningful sufferings. What we can do is the attitude we put at this very moment.
Of course.
So by adding your attitude, it becomes a cause of the result that will end up in the next moment.
Right.
So what you are doing is to practice what you believe is right and do it, and wait to see what's happened.
Right.
And many patients feel that they feel a growth.
Okay.
They feel, we call it transcendence, after experience the suffering. So suffering is not always 100% bad.
No.
For many people, suffering is a chance to grow. So that's what I see suffering.
Okay. Yeah. But let me ask you, Dr. Hwang, you've been, in the hospice care for about 22 years.
Yes.
How would you relate the message to a patient that he or she is suffering from terminal illness, and to his or her family?
Yeah.
What is the biggest difficult part that you have to endure in telling the message to patient and his family?
Yes, someone ever asked one question, is there a good way to break bad news? No, there isn't any good way to bad news. We always try to avoid the worst way to deliver bad news. So when we are encountering bad news, we have to bring it in front of patients and the families. I think honest is a good policy, but we cannot deliver the bad news very cruelly, very
lightly.
Yes. So there is a way to deliver bad news. Actually, we have to before we give that information, we have to collect whether the patient has one idea that something is going wrong. So before we tell, we ask. We have to ask first how he or she feel the change in his body. Because if you go into the terminal stage of illness, the patient don't need us to tell them, they know. But the difficulty is that family were very afraid of giving bad news because themselves they are not capable of handling the situation. They think the patient will break down and they don't know how to do it. But that becomes a barrier between patient and family, and we don't want that to happen. We want them to get together in that difficult time, and through that period of time, they can build another strong relationship with each other. So I give bad news all the time. So we start by letting the patient to tell us what he or she had experienced in the last, say, several months or years of the treatment. We call it the journey. Let them to tell what happened in the journey, not only in the medical part, but in their own life. What had changed? Now, they will tell us what the impact are and how they come to face it. And by doing that, the relative can listen carefully what the patient already know or how he or she feel. The family will be comforted.
But Dr. Hwang, wouldn't there be, calls or demands coming from patients or even the families about, hey, Dr. Hwang, are you doing all you can to try to save, my, loved one's life? Are they, they must be anxious to know if there are other means, medical means available to help save the life of the loved ones. How would you respond to that?
We try to help them face the reality that we don't have magic here. So if we are talking about the response of the treatment, we are not always talking about cure. Sometimes we are talking about control of the condition or make it
maintain the condition.
Maintain the present status, or even if it's going down slowly. So at that moment, we have to admit that from this time on, what medicine can do is either to delay the occurrence of death or to make it softer, not that hard to face, to die well, to die better. So we have to face it. We have this or that, we have plan A, plan B, plan C, but for the plan A, we have to say a 50% of chance, but you have to be careful what is the chance. The chance may be, for doctor, the response rate may mean we can control it, but for the patient and the family, the response should be cured. So there is a great gap between the languages. So we have to deliver solid information about what we mean by what we said. So we do two parts. One is to provide information about the treatment available. And the second part is to get to know what the value of the patient is, what he or she expected for the rest of the life, and try to merge these two together and make decisions. So we try to get the patient into the talk. Not like many family in Taiwan. Family like to dominate because they have no bad idea. They just want to protect the patient.
It's hard to let go. Sometimes.
But if the time is limited, we don't know how long, but it is limited. What can we make the most out of this period of time? Because when you are focusing on only treatment, you are losing many chance to to gain more from the life.
Okay.
Like you said in the psychosocial spiritual dimension, you have many things here to benefit from, but you focus on this side, but there's the chance is the same.
All right. Dr. Hwang,
yes.
Can you share a story that you might have, experienced, in the last 22 years, taking care of patients with terminal illness? Can you share a story that particularly moved you?
Yes, I have to mention my biggest brother.
Oh, okay.
My biggest brother, he had a pancreatic cancer.
Okay.
I think he won't mind I mention his name here. He had pancreatic cancer, and he died in my hospice at the age of 45.
That's very young.
Yes, very young. And at first, the disease is controlled pretty good.
Okay.
When you are talking about pancreatic cancer, it's not that good.
No.
But he had good control for the first year, but when the chemo come back, it was hard. The symptoms just merged one by another. But through that period, he was very calm.
Okay.
He is a devoted Buddhist, and he had his practice, and even he tried to comfort others in the family. And he spent 3 weeks in my unit, and he just let me know exactly what a patient goes through that period, that journey. And I remember that one night before he went into coma, I was sitting by the bedside and I sobbed. He noted, he asked me that, "Are you crying?" I said, "Yes." He comforted me by saying that it's okay, everyone has done his best, and it's okay. So he comforted the person, he comforted his wife, my mother, my father. He was in the center, and everyone wanted to spend that time with him. Okay. And he died in the early morning, and after the traditional Buddhist ritual to chant for 8 hours, I bring my parents in the room to see him for the last moment, and it was heartbreaking because this is their first child, and they see him go in front of them. And my brother showed me the journey himself, and I experienced the bereavement, and I was with my mother for many more years for her grief. So he is like another teacher in life to teach me what is exactly happened. In the first year when my hospice was established. So when I work in the unit, actually sometimes I'm still the family, and at that period I constantly ask my colleague, am I too hard? No. Am I right by doing this? It is quite hard to play the role, both the physician and the family. I'm very grateful for my colleagues. They support me through that period.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
All right. Dr. Hwang, and thank you for sharing, some of the stories, especially the one regarding a loved one in your family.
Yes.
And let me ask you this: what is the general attitude in Taiwan about people, the general public, at large? What is the attitude towards hospice and palliative care? How many people actually know what that is? And how would they, think that hospice palliative care may one day help them and also their loved ones?
People think differently.
Yes.
At one end, people think having hospice care is giving up. We'll do nothing about them. One day, I even hear a family describe how he imagined a hospice were like. He said, it will be a very dark, large room, empty room, and we place the patient on their bed, one next to another, and there will no one there to look after them. And it sounds horrible. It's not like in a morgue. No, it's not like that. Hospice is a place not to wait to die, but a place to live well before you die, no matter it will be in your own homes or in the hospital ward. So that's one end. Another end, they feel that hospice must be heavily paradise, something like that, and we are all angels, we will solve everything, and the patient just live happily ever until they die. Well, it doesn't happen that either. So hospice is a model of care, which in the definition by WHO is the care provided for those who face life-threatening illness, not always incurable. But when you're facing that life-threatening, many needs will emerge. And what we do is we control pain, we control symptoms, we manage the psychosocial and even spiritual needs. We provide the care, and the goal is the quality of life.
Of course.
And by improving the quality of life, we can improve the quality of death. And by improving the quality of death of the patient, we improve the quality of the bereaved families. So it's a cycle.
Yes.
So what we are doing to let the patient and their family know, sometimes we just show them a tour into the hospice world, and or we talk with them how you manage to take care of the patient in your home before you admit it this time, and how we are going to help. When you go back home after this admission, we will be there to help you. We will visit you once or twice a week, and we will provide some equipment that will be helpful in your homes. So by providing support, we try to help people to stay at their homes as long as they like. And because it will be more difficult day by day, so we will provide more care as is needed. Try our best.
And over the years, since you have been in the, palliative care unit, has the attitude in Taiwan changed? And has people now becoming more aware of the kinds of services and the experience at hospice, and palliative care, and now becoming more open-minded about the services you provide?
Yes, over the past 25 years, since the Taiwan Hospice Foundation started to propagate for this idea, I think many things has changed, not only in the legal dimension, but also in the social dimension. Now, I know there will be tens of thousands of people. They will participate in lectures or activities around death and life and death issues every year. And the government statistics show that more than 250,000 people, they have signed up their do not resuscitate consent and put it documented on the health card, IC card. So the number will be increasing every year. And now when we are talking about end of life decisions, many people are very open. They can talk with you the end of life issues, and they can talk openly with their family. More and more people will tell you that I don't want to be intubated. They can say precisely like that. But of course, there are still many families they would like to do as much as possible. But because everyone is in this community, we always have friends or relatives admitted in the hospital. So we always have the chance to visit what's happening in the hospital. And more people will like to make decisions beforehand. They don't want to be one of the patients that's in the care unit. So I think that the situation is changing for the good side. And Dr. Hwang, we know everyone's situation is different. People have different religious beliefs, and they have different, kinds of family support. But what is, I think generally difficult for a physician is to try to relate the message to the patient and his or her family, and also emphasizing that death is not the end of the line, but also part of the life. How do you then, relay such a concept to patients and their families? Well, as a physician, I do not preach philosophies.
All right.
I only come just to solve problems because there are already many problems to solve.
Exactly.
What's their view towards life and death is the inward growth within them. And I cannot help by giving you my idea, give you this is the philosophy. No, they will grow inside themselves. When the pain, the symptom is controlled better, they will start to think.
Yes.
They will start to try to figure out what is still wrong in their life. They will maybe start to talk their regrets or their wishes. And by doing that, you can see the priority in their lives is changing. And sometimes we just stand by them, the patient, and observe what's happening. Sometimes we clearly see the growth inside the patient.
Yes.
So the patient, at that they will tell us the quality of life is much more important than the length. This word had to come out from the patient's mouth, not from us.
Okay.
So we provide that environment.
And Dr. Hwang, what do you think about the death education in Taiwan?
Yes.
Because this is sometimes a taboo, for many people. Some people in the past may not even want to talk about it. And I understand, of course, with the world becoming more integrated, and we're becoming more international as well, and people now becoming more open-minded. They're willing to discuss some of these very emotional and sensitive issues like death. And what do you think about the death education in Taiwan?
I think the situation is much, much better than decades ago.
Okay.
Now people do discuss life and death openly.
Yes.
I think death education is a part of life education. And the most important part for life and death education is education to face loss. We always face losses from our childhood.
Of course.
We lost our toy, we lost our
friends,
pets. So we start from facing the loss. And the three organizations I just mentioned, one from Christian, one from Catholic, one from Buddhist, they work together and they provide life and death lectures or activities to their followers. So that's a good situation. And also in many drama or movies, you can see many good material. They are talking about what death is, or what is bereavement, what is grief, what is the choice before death. So we have many material now in the community that we can talk openly. So I think with time is passing, more and more people they have the ability to make decisions about their life.
And finally, before we end this part of the program, Dr. Hwang, death is something that you prepare for. And you think you prepare for it, but when it actually happens, the family is probably going to find out they are not prepared for it. When that moment comes, what would be your advice to the families? Even though they have been mentally preparing themselves, but when it actually happens, it still hurt. What do you do?
We are there to provide support. We know we should do this, but when we are in the middle of the center, we cannot bear it ourselves. So the team are there to support the family. And often when the patient died, and the family spends some time to recover, and the family are in turn they want to help others. So there will be a good circle. So we are here to help the patient and the family to reorganize, to reprioritize what's important in their life. To rebuild. And many times they become the best part of their life before they died. So we want them to have the opportunity to do that.
And think positive. Let me ask you about the overall environment in Taiwan, considering hospice and palliative care. And we have mentioned earlier about the legal foundation in Taiwan, specifically first referring to the Hospice and Palliative Care Act that was passed by our legislative yuan in the year 2000. Would you mind explaining the act to us, and also what is the impact of the act on Taiwan?
Yes, although the law is titled as Hospice Palliative Care Act, it's not there to regulate what hospice palliative care should do, but there to regulate the decision around resuscitation. So in the year 2000, when the law was presented to the House, there were two parts. One is not to do the resuscitation, we call it do not resuscitate. Another part is to remove the life-sustaining treatment that has been put in. But at that time, the Congress are very suspicious about the removal part, so it only passed a part that if there is a consent form from the patient or the family, we can hold. We call it withhold. We can withhold the resuscitation. So that's what happened in the year 2000. And 2 years later, the amendment was made that if the consent is signed by the patient himself, then the tube can be removed. And then it went by about 9 years until the year 2011, when the legislative yuan they agreed that removal can be consented by family, but they have a very strict regulation that all the families, including your parents to your adult children, they will have to agree as a whole. Everyone have to agree. But so they opened a door for the relative, but very, very narrow. 2 years later, the year 2013, the final amendment of the law said that the regulation for do not do it will be the same as take it away. Meaning that if you know in advance that this is a terminal condition, and with the consent of the patient, we can withhold the resuscitation. Then we have a DNR order. If we are not sure whether this is a terminal condition, the law encourages us to do more. And if you are sure that with all this life-sustaining treatment, the patient are still in very bad condition and the death is still inevitable, you can take it away, it withdraw. So withholding and withdrawal of the life-sustaining treatment is equal in their regulation, but it is only possible for the patient with terminal diagnosis. So this part of the law is complete, but then people start to think, then what happens if we are not talking about terminal condition? Sometimes the disease is unbearable, but it is a distance from being diagnosed as terminal. Can we withhold the treatment also when we don't have the diagnosis of terminal illness? So last year we have a new law passed titled as Patient Self-Determination Act. In that act, we can do, we empower the patient with two parts. One is you can appoint someone else to speak for you when you are no longer able to speak. And then you can ask for a meeting. We call it advanced care planning. So you start to talk with the health care provider about the possible care you are going to have if your disease at present are going worse. And the health care provider tell you, you will have to face this and that. And then the provider also encourage the patient to talk about his value. And by merging these two parts, they can have a shared decision about the future. And after that, you put it on a written document. We call it advanced directives. With this advanced directive, and when you are no longer able to decide for yourself, you can still receive the care that is decided by yourself.
Okay, all right. Do you think with all these, passage of different legislations, that our foundation, legal, medical, psychological, all these support are in place that will make Taiwan a more comprehensive, environment for hospice and palliative care compared with other countries in the region? What do you think?
Yes, I think in the latest international survey, one of the reasons why we have that kind of ranking, a part of it is because we have these laws. It made the foundation of what we expect for a good death, but it's only the foundation. Built upon this foundation will be what we do, and most important part is the communication.
Yes,
the communication between healthcare providers and patient and the families, and also the communication between the families and the communication between the healthcare providers. So build on this foundation, we have to improve our skill both in the medical side and in the communication. I think that's vital.
All right, and Dr. Hwang, you have been in palliative care for 22 years.
Yes.
Let me ask you first, how was your training different to be a physician in the palliative care unit from the regular medical training?
Physician in palliative care in Taiwan, this is a subspecialty, which means we have a prior main specialty, either in family medicine, internal medicine, surgeon, or radiation oncology. These are the mainstream, and I am a OB/GYN doctor. I'm in the minority. We have now a formal training program for the future palliative care physicians. There will be several parts. First, you have to attend a training course of 80 hours. 14 of them will be lectures, and 40 of them will be clinical attachment. Then you have to complete 3 months of clinical training in one of the training hospice around the country. Currently, we have something that's more than 20 hospitals that become the training center for doctors. And then you have to pass a board. And after the written exam, it will come the oral exam. And in the oral exam, there will be 3 scenarios. You go into the room, there will be two we call it standardized patients. They will be actors. Not professional, but they are amateur actors by our very senior colleagues. They will present a scenario. And you have to be in the middle, try to talk to the patient, talk to the family, and examiner will sit by the bed to make point. So it will be a very hard one to pass.
Exactly.
Yes, but by doing this, we hope that the palliative care physician, they are capable of doing things not only in the knowledge part, but actually you can do good communication.
Good. And also, Dr. Hwang, you came from a background in gynecology.
Yes.
And people are going to ask you, Dr. Hwang, how come you don't go back to your main practice? But instead, you have chosen to stay in palliative care for 22 years. What was the reason or factors that made you want to stay in the palliative care?
When I was a resident, the patient in the gynecology ward, 2/3 of them will be cancer patients. So I start to learn palliative care by the need in your work. You have to know how to take care of them.
Yes.
And at this time, I have to thank my bosses, my head of department, Professor He and Professor Zhou. Both of them, they are very supportive. Both of them, they inspire me to know that this kind of care, this kind of treatment, beyond cure, is also important as cure. So they inspire me, and they actually donate me into this field because in hospital, we are some kind of cost.
Yes, of course.
And they don't mind if I spend so many time out of this department, and they support me.
Okay.
I think I'm still a midwife, you know.
Okay.
I now pray the midwife for babies to heaven. So the concept is quite similar because you prepare the pregnant ladies.
Yes.
You teach them what will happen when you are going to labor, and they practice beforehand and get the husband ready.
Yes.
So it will be the same when you are helping the patient. You try to make it comfortable as possible, and you, to some degree, you make the patient get acquaintance with what happened in the end, and you get the family ready. Okay. And you support them. No matter how you love your wife, you cannot take a part of the pain out of the labor.
Yes.
That's the same when you're facing your relative before you, but you can show your love, your compassion, and so many years in the
palliative
work.
care.
Yes, I think that we have the privilege to stand by the patient at this end of life, and they're very generous to show their life before us, and we learn from their life. They told us that they have many wishes, they have many regrets, and the most important in life will be family.
Yes.
The most important ingredient will be love.
Yes,
so that's what I learned from them.
Okay. And Dr. Hwang, thank you for being a special guest in our program today. I certainly enjoy our conversation and learned quite a bit from our conversation with you. And want to wish you all the best in your future personal and professional endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for watching our program today. I'll see you next time on MacroView Television. Thank you.